Most people believe poverty is caused by laziness. That is one of the biggest financial lies ever repeated. Look around carefully. The hardest working people in society are often the ones struggling the most. Construction workers, nurses, factory workers, drivers, small business owners, parents working 2 jobs. They wake up early. They go to sleep exhausted. They sacrifice time. They sacrifice energy. They sacrifice health. Yet many of them remain financially fragile for decades. If hard work created wealth, they would be rich, but they are not. This forces an uncomfortable question. What if effort is not the determining factor? What if the system rewards something else entirely? From childhood, we are programmed with a simple equation. Work hard gives earn money, gives build a good life. The equation sounds logical. It feels moral. It feels fair, but it is incomplete. Hard work increases income. It does not automatically increase leverage, and leverage is what builds wealth. There is a critical difference between effort and leverage. Effort is linear. You work 1 hour, you get paid for 1 hour. You work 10 hours, you get paid for 10 hours. The relationship is direct and limited. Leverage breaks that limit. Leverage allows 1 hour of effort to produce results beyond 1 hour. Technology is leverage. Ownership is leverage. Capital is leverage. Scalable systems are leverage. Without leverage, income has a ceiling, and effort has a physical limit. Hard-working people often hit that ceiling early, not because they lack discipline, but because they are rewarded only for time. Time cannot compound. Assets can. This is the first uncomfortable truth. The economy does not reward who works hardest. It rewards who controls scalable value. This explains something many people feel but cannot articulate. They work harder each year. They earn slightly more, but expenses rise at the same speed. Lifestyle expands. Obligations grow. Energy declines. And progress feels strangely flat. Because linear effort produces linear growth. And linear growth struggles to outpace inflation, lifestyle creep, and aging. Meanwhile, individuals with leverage experience exponential growth. Their income is not directly tied to time. Their assets appreciate while they sleep. Their systems operate even when they rest. This is not about intelligence. It is not about luck. It is about structure. Hardworking people often optimize within a structure. Wealthy people design structures. One trades time for money. The other trades design for scale. This difference compounds silently over decades. A hardworking person may earn $80,000 per year for 20 years. A leveraged system may produce $5,000 per month after initial creation, and grow from there. Over time, the gap widens. Not because one person worked harder, because one person built leverage. The tragedy is not that hardworking people lack ambition. The tragedy is that they were taught the wrong metric. They measure progress by hours worked. Instead of assets built, they focus on earning more, instead of owning more. And this confusion keeps them busy, but financially average. The system does not punish hard work, it simply caps it. And once you hit the cap, effort alone cannot break through. The real game begins where effort stops scaling. That is where leverage enters. But before we talk about leverage, we must confront something deeper. Why do intelligent, disciplined, hard-working people continue choosing linear income, even when they know it has limits? That answer is psychological. And it is the real reason many hard-working people remain broke. If leverage creates wealth, why don't more hard-working people pursue it? The answer is not intelligence. It is conditioning. From an early age, we are trained to value effort over design. In school, the student who studies longer is praised. In sports, the athlete who trains harder is admired. In jobs, the employee who stays late is rewarded. Effort becomes moral. Effort becomes identity. And identity is powerful. When someone defines themselves as hard-working, they naturally double down on effort whenever problems appear. Income is low. Work more hours. Promotion is slow. Prove yourself harder. Savings are thin. Take extra shifts. The strategy is always the same. More effort, but effort feels productive because it is visible. You can measure hours. You can measure exhaustion. You can measure sacrifice. Leverage, on the other hand, feels uncertain. It requires delayed results. It requires experimentation. It requires periods where effort produces no immediate return, and that feels dangerous. Hardworking people are often extremely responsible. Responsibility makes them risk-averse. Risk aversion keeps them in linear income. This creates the second trap: short-term security over long-term scalability. When you have bills, family, obligations, and expectations, the idea of uncertain income feels irresponsible. So you choose predictability. And predictability reinforces linearity. Another psychological factor makes this worse: social validation. Society respects hard workers. It understands visible grind. It does not always understand invisible building. If you say you're working overtime, people applaud. If you say you're building something that may pay off in 5 years, people question you. External validation pushes people toward safe, visible effort. Invisible leverage feels lonely, and humans dislike loneliness. There is also the comfort trap. Hard work produces steady income. Steady income produces lifestyle upgrades. Lifestyle upgrades create commitments. Commitments reduce flexibility. Once your life depends on a specific income level, risk tolerance shrinks. You no longer work to grow, you work to maintain. Maintenance becomes the mission, and maintenance is the enemy of scale, because scaling requires temporary instability. Another hidden force keeps hardworking people stuck. They overvalue competence inside one system. If you have mastered your job, you feel powerful. You know how it works. You know how to succeed. You are respected. Starting something scalable means becoming a beginner again, and beginners feel incompetent. Hardworking people often tie self-worth to competence, so they unconsciously avoid environments where they are not already skilled. They stay where they are strong. But strength inside one system does not equal ownership of a system. The most dangerous phrase in financial life is this: I'm good at my job. Being good at your job increases income. It does not automatically create ownership. Ownership creates leverage, and leverage creates escape velocity. This is why many smart, disciplined individuals plateau financially. They are optimizing performance, not building leverage. They climb higher inside the structure, but the structure itself remains unchanged. And if you do not own the structure, you are still limited by it. The irony is painful. Hardworking people often have exactly the traits needed for wealth: discipline, consistency, persistence. But those traits are applied in the wrong direction. Instead of compounding assets, they compound effort. Instead of building scalable systems, they perfect linear performance. And the result is predictable, stable, respectable, financially average. The system does not punish them. It simply does not reward them exponentially. To escape this trap, something must shift. Not effort, not intelligence, but orientation. The question must change from, how can I earn more this year, to, what can I build that continues earning without my constant presence? That question feels uncomfortable, because it introduces uncertainty. But without uncertainty, there is no scale. And without scale, there is no wealth. In the next part, we will break down exactly how leverage changes the game, and why small shifts in thinking can create massive long-term separation between hardworking and wealthy. If hard work has a ceiling, leverage is what breaks it. But leverage is often misunderstood. People imagine leverage as massive capital, big businesses, or complicated financial strategies. In reality, leverage exists in simple, repeatable forms. There are 3 primary types of leverage that separate hardworking earners from wealth builders: capital, code, and systems. Let's start with capital. Capital leverage means money working for you, instead of you working for money. When you invest in productive assets, businesses, stocks, real estate, equity, your income is no longer directly tied to your time. Capital compounds, time does not. A salary resets every month. An asset grows continuously. This is why 2 people earning the same income can end up in completely different financial positions 20 years later. One spends income, the other converts income into ownership. Ownership multiplies, spending stabilizes. The second type is code, and code does not only mean programming. Code represents anything digital that scales without proportional effort. A piece of software, an online product, a video that earns ad revenue, a digital course, a piece of intellectual property. Digital assets have a unique advantage: they can be replicated infinitely at near zero cost. This breaks the linear income model. You create once, it distributes many times. Even traditional professions can incorporate code leverage: a consultant who packages knowledge into scalable content, a professional who builds a digital audience, a creator who monetizes expertise. Code amplifies effort. The third type is systems. Systems are structured processes that function without constant supervision. A business with trained operators, a rental structure with management, a product distribution chain, a brand with recurring customers. Systems separate effort from output. When output continues even when effort pauses, leverage exists. Most hardworking people focus entirely on effort. Wealthy individuals focus on building these three forms of leverage. Capital compounds wealth. Code scales knowledge. Systems automate output. The difference is structural. Hardworking earners increase input. Leverage builders increase multiplier. And multipliers compound dramatically over time. Here is where many people misunderstand something critical. Leverage does not require quitting your job. It requires reallocating energy. Even a small percentage of time directed toward building leverage changes long-term trajectory. If 100% of your energy goes toward linear income, you remain capped. If 10 to 20% begins building scalable assets, the ceiling starts moving. At first, nothing looks different. Income remains similar. Effort remains similar. But beneath the surface, compounding begins. This is the stage where most people quit, because leverage feels slow initially. Hard work gives immediate feedback. Leverage gives delayed payoff. Delayed payoff requires patience. And patience feels uncomfortable in a culture obsessed with speed. But exponential curves always begin flat. The early stage looks insignificant. The middle stage looks promising. The later stage looks unfair. People often notice leverage only when it becomes obvious. They see someone successful and assume it happened quickly. They do not see the years of quiet building. This misunderstanding discourages them from starting. Another mistake hardworking people make is confusing high income with leverage. A surgeon earning $400,000 per year still trades time for money. A lawyer billing hourly still trades time for money. If income stops when effort stops, leverage is limited. High income without ownership is still linear. Linear income can provide comfort, but comfort is not wealth. Wealth is optionality. Optionality means you can choose how to spend time without collapsing financially. And optionality is built through leverage. The most powerful realization is this: you do not need to replace hard work. You need to redirect part of it. Hard work applied to leverage multiplies. Hard work applied only to salary caps. The economy does not reward sweat proportionally. It rewards scalable impact. When your effort affects more people, more systems, more capital, income expands beyond your hours. That is the real game. Not working more, working in a way that detaches income from time. In the final part, we'll confront the uncomfortable truth that stops most hard-working people from ever making this shift, and what separates those who escape from those who remain stuck. At this point, the path seems clear. Build leverage, redirect effort, think beyond salary. So why don't most hard-working people do it? Because the real barrier is not knowledge. It is fear of identity collapse. For years, maybe decades, you have built a reputation around being dependable, responsible, reliable. You are the person who shows up, the person who delivers, the person who works harder than others. That identity feels solid. Leverage requires temporarily becoming uncertain. It requires saying, I don't know yet, I'm learning, I'm building something that may not work, that feels vulnerable. And hard-working people hate looking incompetent. There is another uncomfortable truth. Hard work gives moral superiority. When you work extremely hard, you feel justified, you feel disciplined, you feel ethical, you feel productive. Leverage does not always feel moral. It feels strategic. Owning assets that earn while you sleep can trigger internal conflict. Some people subconsciously believe money must be tied to visible effort. If income comes without visible labor, it feels undeserved, so they sabotage scale unconsciously. They choose grind over growth, because grind feels righteous, growth feels uncertain. There is also the comfort of busyness. Busyness protects you from reflection. If you are constantly working, you do not need to confront structural limits. You can always say, I'm doing my best. But being busy is not the same as building wealth. Busy people often feel productive while remaining financially average. The hardest truth is this: hard work is safe. Leverage is strategic. Safe paths rarely create separation. Separation requires asymmetry, and asymmetry feels unfair at first. The person building leverage may earn nothing for a year, then suddenly earn more in 1 year than a grinder earns in 5. From the outside it looks lucky. From the inside, it was structural. Most people never reach that stage because they quit during the flat curve. They see no immediate reward. They return to certainty. Certainty keeps them average. Another factor holds people back. Delayed gratification has limits when your environment rewards immediacy. If your peers are upgrading cars, homes, vacations, while you are quietly building assets, you may feel behind. Comparison kills patience, but patience is the gateway to leverage. This is where discipline becomes critical. Not the discipline to work more hours, the discipline to tolerate invisible progress, the discipline to delay visible success, the discipline to look ordinary while building something scalable. This is the real dividing line. Hardworking people are disciplined in effort. Wealth builders are disciplined in direction. Direction matters more than intensity. Running fast in the wrong direction only makes you tired. A small shift in direction sustained over time creates massive divergence. Here is the uncomfortable summary. Hardworking people stay broke because they maximize input instead of multipliers. They chase income instead of ownership. They seek stability instead of scalability. They value effort more than leverage. They protect identity more than they build optionality. None of this means hard work is useless. Hard work is fuel. But fuel without a scalable engine does not create distance. If you truly want separation, the question changes permanently. Not, how can I work harder? But how can I build something that works without me? That question is uncomfortable, because it requires strategic thinking, delayed gratification, uncertain beginnings. But that question is the doorway. The wealthy are not always the smartest. They are not always the most talented. They are not always the hardest working. They simply understand that effort must be multiplied, not maximized. And once you understand that, you cannot unsee it. You begin evaluating everything differently. Jobs become funding tools. Income becomes investment fuel. Time becomes allocation. Energy becomes strategic capital. The game changes. Hard work stops being the goal. Leverage becomes the goal. And that shift, small, internal, invisible at first, determines whether someone remains financially average or quietly escapes the ceiling that effort alone can never break.